What are some common issues that would arise that a realtor would have to deal with during a transaction, and how can you resolve those effectively?
Wow, that's a loaded question, Lexi.
I know, I'm just out here with those hard hitters.
That is actually a difficult question because what issues could arise, what issues could not? Oh my gosh. Somebody has buyer's remorse. How do you handle the emotions of that?
Yeah.
Somebody loses a job and they can no longer get their loan. There are a lot of emotions involved in those things that come up that have to be managed.
Welcome to Lawrence Real and Local, Keepin' It Real podcast, presented to you by the Lawrence Board of Realtors. We are your go-to source for all things real estate in Lawrence, Kansas. I'm Lexi Haskin with Flint Hills Mortgage.
And I'm Emily Robertson with McGrew Real Estate. Together, we're here to make the journey to homeownership a breeze. Join us as we share insider insights, expert advice, and a dose of fun along the way.
Welcome to the Lawrence Board of Realtors, Keepin' It Real podcast. We are joined here today by Jill Ballew with Stevens Real Estate and also the president of the Lawrence Board of Realtors for 2024. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on.
Yeah, we're just really happy that you're here joining us and just took the time out of your day and your schedule and just all the things to just come do this with us.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
Well, let's just start. Give us a little bit of background and just like how you got into real estate and just how you got to where you are right now.
Sure. I actually spent an entire previous career in employee relations and HR for some of the larger distribution centers like FedEx and JCPenney. And I just got tired of traveling and just kind of hit a wall and decided I would start over after 18 years.
You know how to deal with people.
I do.
Yeah.
I have lots of experience. So, a friend suggested, I think you might be good at this. And I was very reluctant and so glad that I took the plunge.
And how long have you been in real estate now?
Let's see. This is, I think, my 6th year.
Your 6th year? Yeah. I mean, time flies.
It
Yeah.
does.
And I mean, you must like it, obviously, because, 6 years, you're president of the board of realtors. I mean, you're just flying high.
Yeah.
I do.
I love it.
I drew a short straw.
The short straw. Oh, my gosh.
To be the president.
Yes.
I love it.
Just kidding.
Well, we figured, who better to talk about this topic than have you on here? Why is it important to use realtors?
That's a great topic.
Absolutely. So can you tell us what the difference is between a real estate agent and realtor?
Yes. So all real estate agents are not realtors, but all realtors are real estate agents.
Nice.
But the difference is that as a realtor, you are part of the National Association of Realtors, which adhere to a strong code of ethics and not just, a requirement for realtors to cooperate with each other, but also lends guidance and outlines duties to your clients and the public. So not many people probably know that.
That was well put. I like that.
So something that I guess I'm confused. So to be a real estate agent, do you still have to be licensed to be a real estate agent or just a realtor?
Yes. But not everybody is required to be a member of the National Association of Realtors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Personally, I abide by a code of ethics. So I feel like realtors or realtors. So for everybody out there, it's realtor. We're all about realtor or real. What is another way that people say it?
I hear most often my realtor.
Yeah.
Realtor. It's realtor.
Say realtor 3 times fast.
Yeah. My whole life, I seriously thought it was realtor. A realtor.
Yeah. That's what they say on TV, I feel like most of the time and everything. So that's what I thought it was too before I jumped in.
Especially over the past year or two with all those marketing things where they're like, why realtor or realtor? I'm like, where in the frickle frack did that come from? Like, that doesn't sound natural to me. It's like somebody saying roller coaster instead of roller coaster. Roller coaster.
Lexi.
Roller coaster.
Some people say roller coaster or like
I've never heard that
bury
one.
instead of berry. Or, I mean, there's just like so many different things that people will just say. And it's like, is it because this is where you're from or
Different
realtor?
pronunciations, yeah.
Yeah, bury.
Tomato kind of situation.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess in this way, it really just is realtor. Like that's
Yeah.
the proper way to say it.
Realtor.
Realtor.
Exactly.
It starts to even sound funny after you say that over and over. Realtor.
Realtor.
Yeah, if you say it too many times, you're like, this isn't a word.
Yeah.
That's me just going off on my own little tangent. That has nothing to do with anything, but kind of. So, I mean, what are the primary benefits of just using a realtor?
Well, contrary to belief, realtors do more than just turn the key.
What?
So, yes.
Wild.
Gosh. So, in all seriousness, they are complex transactions. So, not just opening a door. It's also things that you don't really think about, like getting people to play nice in the sandbox, managing emotions. But it's so many things. It's problem solving, it's critical thinking, it's coordinating appointments, inspectors, dates, getting signatures, all of those things. But there's so many things that go on behind the scenes from start to finish that, it'd be easier to just have somebody kind of tote along with me
Yeah.
and just kind of see the ins and outs.
Absolutely.
A day in the life of Jill Ballew.
Day in the life.
I love it.
I would scare people away.
Oh my gosh. I mean, and we're going to get into some of these complexities a little bit later too with some of these questions because, I mean, some people, I really don't feel like they understand everything that a realtor does. I mean, they're like, oh, they just have to take pictures and just take people to this place, unlock the door, and I guess put some numbers and things on a contract, and then they're done.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you want to put something in a nutshell like that, I mean, that's just some of the duties, but
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
just so much more that people realize, like,
Beneath the surface of what you kind of see when you're going through a transaction. Absolutely.
yeah.
I agree.
I mean, do you think it's important to work with a local realtor?
I do because, especially right now, our inventory is just not that great. And, working with somebody local, that has more of a pulse on the market, they have already built those relationships with other brokerages outside of their own, just have the daily knowledge. They're hearing what's happening daily. They're in and out of those houses daily. They're listening to the feedback that they're getting daily
They know the market.
in those markets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I do.
I mean, would either of you want to go out and like try and do a market out in Wichita or something, or
No way.
That's too far for me.
like different ball game?
Yeah.
Western
completely
Kansas.
different.
Western Kansas is a different ball game.
Yeah. And just getting up there 3 hours for a showing, it might be gone before you get there in some of them. So,
Yeah. 3-hour round trip doesn't sound like a very good use of time.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know how else I would rather spend my time than in the car. You're like, Lexi, you're crazy. I actually would not like to spend my time like that. Unless I'm listening to a really good podcast like
That's true.
this. You're
Makes
like,
you wanna
nice
stay in the car
plug.
longer.
Well played.
Oh my gosh.
So, can you discuss a little bit how realtors help with just accurately pricing a property and how that process goes?
Sure. I think it seems like it would be like black and white, but it's really not. It's, of course, people are pulling comps and you're looking at what's sold, in a short time frame just so you can get an accurate, what's happening today, not 3 years ago. So you're pulling some of those stats and you're kind of looking at what does that picture look like? But then there's also a subjective aspect of that. How does the house feel when you walk in? What's the layout? a 2,000 square foot, well laid out floor plan feels different than a 2,000 square foot house that might feel more compartmentalized or, boxy or.
Absolutely.
So there's also some components like that where when you go back to a local realtor, somebody who's familiar with being in and out of those properties, not just looking at that on paper, but here are the comps I pulled, and I've actually been inside every single one of those houses, and I've looked at those personally. I've walked through those, and this is how they compare to your house. So some of that expertise and just knowledge that you can offer from experience lends to help price something correctly.
Absolutely. It was really well
And I
put.
mean, too, and you guys even will put together different groups of realtors to go through and look at houses that are about to be listed and give their opinions too. So, I mean, not only do you guys get comps, but you have multiple opinions going in from other realtors as well, right?
Sometimes, yeah, price opinions are pretty common especially with how quick the market is, and it's more difficult to price things, I feel like.
Yeah, and I love to do that anyway because that gives you an independent, you have these 2 or these 3 people go out and do their independent evaluation of that property, and there may be something that they saw while they walked through it that you didn't catch, or, just a different sets of eyes, and it just helps firm up that price range that you're looking at. And,
Absolutely.
and there could be different price ranges for if you choose to paint or if you want to,
Yeah.
do some extra projects, and will that add to your price, or are you well placed where you're at?
Yeah.
So there's those type of, we advise on that type of stuff too.
Just those little tips and tricks. And they're like, well, if I do this much to my house, will it actually do this? And we're like, well, are you actually going to get your money's worth out of that? Or, yeah. But I mean, in some cases, it really does help make the property more, what's the word I'm trying to use? I was going to say approachable, but I mean, people just approach a property no matter what. Likable.
Attractive.
Attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah, people will like that property.
You're funny.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, and also how important are negotiation skills and when it comes to contracts? I mean, especially coming from the field where you were at with dealing with people too. I mean, that would probably really help throughout that. But how does that actually help throughout the process of it, the buying and selling?
Well, I think when people think negotiating, I think most commonly people would say they think a price on a house. But, there are so many other things to be negotiating on during a real estate transaction that maybe don't just pop into your mind. Or the other one might be like inspections. And how do you negotiate inspection items that come up? But, we also have the appraisal process. We have the close date. We have, the costs associated. We have all these different things that are important to people in a different way. Every transaction is different. So, trying to get something that favors the seller and something that also favors the buyer so that, both people are happy on both sides. And we've negotiated a contract that, by the time you get to closing, people are still thrilled,
Yeah.
So I also think that it is important to hire somebody that has good relationships with others, because to me, that is a big part of negotiating is how you conduct yourself. Are you kind to the other person that you're working with? Are you able to articulate what your buyer or seller wants in a way that is
Protecting their interests as well, and just
protecting their interests, but also just doing good business.
Yeah.
And having that reputation, I think, matters during negotiating.
Absolutely.
I mean, being a good person, I mean, it really does.
Comes around.
It's speaks miles, or that's not the term. Oh my God, my brain is just not working. I'm like, you, it speaks wonders.
It's a roller coaster.
Yeah, my brain is a roller coaster today. So there we go. So, I mean, too, with listings that realtors have available to them, I mean, sometimes you guys can see things that other people can't see as well. So, I mean, how do realtors provide access to more property listings and professional networks compared to if somebody was just going at it alone?
I think, again, it goes back to relationships. You know, the brokerages will sometimes have what we call like a firm exclusive listing for whatever reason. A number of reasons why we would do that, but they're not, we don't have tons of those just lying around where I could, go find you a house that's off market. But I do think that what you do have is your relationships and your networking, and that's how you hear about what might be coming to the market. You may not know an address, but you're asking, hey, I've got somebody looking for A, B, and C. You're able to kind of find out in advance so you can give your client a heads up. And so I think it really is just those relationships and that networking that gives you more access to future listings.
Because, I mean, you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but in your sales meetings, people will even say, like, hey, what's coming on? Like, this, I have somebody looking for this. Does anybody have whatever? Like, they're in this price range. Just let me know, sort of thing, too. And they're like, oh, we'll talk later. Or am I just pulling that of nothing? I feel like I've heard that when I was in a meeting at one point.
No, I mean, I think you're right about that. I think we have to be careful that we have permission and sign paperwork and all that, even before we share with our peers inside our own brokerage. But you are able to, when you're interacting with people and you're saying, this is what I might have coming, or I have a need, you're naturally putting that into somebody's mind. So if you said that to me in sales meeting and I had that coming a couple weeks from now, I would think about calling you when I got ready to list that because you told me that you needed that. So,
Connections,
Absolutely.
relationships, communication. Woo.
I mean, also speaking about paperwork, I mean, that kind of goes into our next question. Do you want to take it away?
Yeah. So real estate transactions involve a lot of paperwork. How do you kind of manage dealing with all that paperwork?
It's a great question. It's easier when you have one or two things going on and not 10 or 12. We have, I'm sure each brokerage has their own system, but we have a system that stores all of our digital documents and things like that. So, I mean, that already is kind of set up to help us succeed because it's all right there. Personally, I just, I've always been very organized because I've managed multiple facilities in my past life and, just have a structure set up where I can track dates. Also, I think you just have to check in daily on what you have going on. Even if you think you've got all your I's dotted and T's crossed, you got to go back to that file and walk through that daily until it closes to make sure that you're organized, that you've got all your signatures, and that sort of thing. So I don't know if I have a magic formula for keeping track of all that, but
I mean, there is a lot more paperwork than just the contract that has to be keeping track of. So, I mean, and just having somebody that could manage that for you and that to take that ease off really would be beneficial throughout the process. Because, I mean, even when it comes to amendments, I mean, there are just a lot of different legal and different things that people don't think about in a contract. I mean, what even makes a contract in general? It's like, yes, it's legally binding, and somebody might be like, well, I don't feel like closing anymore, and you're like, oh, you're kind of like breaching contract, you could get sued maybe, but people just don't think about how serious it is and all the things that they have to keep track of. And I mean, when it comes to having a realtor that will help manage the dates and the paperwork and the paper trails and all that stuff. I mean, it's already a stressful process. And I mean, it's one of the largest transactions of someone's life. And I mean, it really does take a level off of it.
Yeah. I mean, even things like right now, I'm waiting for a survey to be recorded so that we can close on a piece of land next week. And, this has been months in the making, and there's different things per the contract that then you have to follow up that create more paperwork too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh. I was like, I didn't even think about all the other stuff too. I mean, surveys, or if you have a property that's in probate or you're dealing with an estate, or, I mean, really, it can be a lot.
soil testing.
Yeah. All the types of inspections, inspection negotiations.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much that you guys do. I mean, speaking of, I mean, you're waiting on a survey. I mean, that's not necessarily like a problem necessarily, but what are some common issues that would arise that a realtor would have to deal with during a transaction, and how can you resolve those effectively?
Wow, that's a loaded question, Lexi.
I know, I'm just out here with those hard hitters.
That is actually a difficult question because what issues could arise, what issues could not? Oh my gosh. Anything from your house needs a new roof during the inspection process to we had a heavy rain and the basement floods.
Mm-hmm.
And you get that call and your client's out of town. What do you do? How do you handle that? And somebody has buyer's remorse. How do you handle the emotions of that?
Yeah.
Somebody loses a job and they can no longer get their loan. Or you count on closing on something and you're going to use your proceeds to buy another property, and then something happens with your contract and you have to start over. So I would say that there are a lot of issues that could come up. And then secondary to that, there are a lot of emotions involved in those things that come up that have to be managed. And I think that's probably one of the biggest non-realizations of what a realtor's job is that people part of it, that managing emotions, that keeping people calm, being that third party advocate that isn't so close to the house that, you're able to make rational decisions and that sort of thing. So,
yeah, just being that shoulder and
Absolutely. Yeah. Every transaction will come with a different set of issues, and they're all unique.
just being able to adapt to those problems, and then being able to be kind and work with your teammates, whether it is another lender or an inspector, the other party on the other side. I mean, it really does take a mountain of people.
Yeah, there's a ton of people behind every transaction.
yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how you tailor advice, or how a realtor would tailor their advice to the needs of their clients? And what should people be like looking for when they are looking for a realtor?
I am a big fan of interviewing your realtor. I'm a big fan of reading reviews. I will argue that unsolicited, yes, somebody may put something out there, but if I ask you to leave me a review, you're probably leaving me a stellar review.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's fair. But I do think that when you are reading reviews, you can see a pattern with how somebody works, whether that be that they're kind, whether that be that they're organized, whether that be they're a good communicator. And I think that's one way too. I have received multiple referrals from people reading reviews and picking up something in those reviews that said, that's the person I want to work with. Like, oh, she deals with a lot of people from out of state. So I saw that in her review, so I'm gonna call her.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think it's important to call, and I have been interviewed before. They were going to call 2 or 3 realtors, and they want to see how you answer those questions and see what's important to them, because you are going to spend the next several months with somebody. So it's important you pick the right one. And we are not all the same. So
What?
we are not all the same.
Amazing.
I'm blown away. I'm blown away by that.
So as far as tailoring advice and services, I think it's important to just first try to understand what people need. Where are they at? Everybody's a different place in their journey. Some more emotional than others, some more business-like. This is just a transaction. Some people are moving out of state, into state. There's so many differences between each client that I think, for me, it's like just sitting down and trying to understand where that person's at and what their goals are. And then from that, you can sort of tailor your approach and your advice somewhat around what those goals are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you have any other questions?
I think you answered most of them. I feel like we got through quite a bit of information.
Are you ready for our game?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Love games.
Okay, so we're going to be playing our fact or fiction game, where we'll give Jill a question and she'll give a really quick answer with fact or fiction. Some of them might need elaborated on, and you're free to do that if you'd like, but we'll kind of go through it real quick. So the first one is realtors can only show houses that they personally have listed. Fact or fiction?
Fiction.
Open houses are the only way agents market homes. Fact or fiction?
Absolutely false.
A realtor's job is over once a contract is signed.
Definitely fiction.
It's when it really starts.
That's when it really starts. You're right.
Realtors don't need any licensing or training.
Come on. Fiction.
Fiction. Do we have any of these that are true?
We'll see. Realtors are only for first-time home buyers or sellers.
Again, fiction.
All realtors are the same.
Well, I think I said that earlier.
I mean,
Definitely fiction.
It's beautifully fiction. Fact or fiction. I love it.
fact and fiction. All these are fiction.
Yeah. Surprise.
I think that's the first round that we've had that has actually had all of them be fiction.
I think so.
That's kind of funny.
It is.
Yep.
But hey, just shows you guys have a lot more to you.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, Jill, is there anything you want to add or say for this episode?
Well, I would just like to say thank you for having me. And, the one thing I would say about using a realtor is there are people that could go it alone, but why? Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
Oh, that reminds me. I feel like I heard something recently, and it was like the 3 most stressful things: buying a home, getting a divorce, or death. So it's like if you would hire an attorney to get a divorce and you would hire someone for your funeral services, then why wouldn't you hire a realtor?
I like that. That's good.
yeah.
Please make sure to like and subscribe. We really appreciate you listening, and thank you very much. This is Lexi Askin.
This is Emily Roberts. And then also a quick thank you to the Lawrence Public Library for letting us use their podcast studio. We love it. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. And thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Okay. Peace out.
Thanks for joining us on Lawrence Real and Local Keepin' It Real podcast. We appreciate our guests taking the time to join us. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you've enjoyed today's episode.
For more information, please visit us on the web, www.lawrencerealtor.com. And remember, whether you're buying, selling, or simply dreaming of your future home, we're here to help. Until next time, keep it real
And happy house hunting.